Sarah always worried. It was in her nature, a low hum of anxiety that accompanied her through life. Since becoming a mother to Emily, that hum had amplified into a constant, watchful buzz. Emily, her bright, imaginative 6-year-old, was Sarah's entire world. With wide, curious eyes and a spirit that danced just outside the lines, Emily filled their small house with laughter and endless questions. Lately, however, the laughter had quieted, replaced by hushed conversations Sarah couldn't quite decipher. Emily had a new friend, Lily. Now, imaginary friends weren't unusual for children Emily's age. Sarah remembered having one herself, a fluffy purple dragon named Sparky who accompanied her on countless adventures in the backyard. But Lily felt different. Emily didn't just talk about Lily, she talked to Lily, often for hours on end. She'd set an extra place at the table, leaving a tiny portion of her dinner untouched, for Lily. She'd whisper secrets into the empty air, giggling at jokes only she and Lily seemed to understand. At first, Sarah found it endearing. But as the weeks turned into months, a knot of unease tightened in her stomach. Emily's interactions with Lily became more frequent, more intense. Emily began to withdraw from her other friends, preferring Lily's company. Playdates were declined, replaced by solitary tea parties with an invisible guest. Emily, once so eager to paint and draw, now only drew pictures of two girls holding hands, one clearly Emily, the other, who? Sarah tried to engage Emily, to learn more about Lily. "What does Lily look like, sweetie?" she'd ask gently. Emily would shrug, her eyes distant. "She just is, Mommy. You can't see her, but she's here." The lack of detail, the increasing isolation, it all felt wrong. Sarah started researching childhood trauma, her fingers flying across the keyboard, searching for answers. Could Lily be a manifestation of some hidden pain, a coping mechanism for something Emily couldn't articulate? Had something happened to her that Sarah hadn't noticed? The guilt gnawed at her. She considered therapy, picturing herself sitting across from a professional, desperately trying to unravel the mystery of Lily. The thought brought a fresh wave of anxiety. What if the therapist confirmed her worst fears? What if Emily was suffering in silence? One night, Sarah lay awake in bed, the silence of the house broken only by the gentle hum of the refrigerator. She tossed and turned, unable to shake the image of Emily's drawings, the two girls holding hands, a silent plea for help. She needed to do something. She needed to understand. She needed to protect her daughter. The watchful buzz in her mind grew louder, insistent, driving her towards action. The silence of the house pressed in on Sarah, amplifying the frantic beat of her own heart. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. Emily's unusual behavior had escalated over the past few weeks. It wasn't just the imaginary friend anymore, it was the secrecy, the hushed tones, the way Emily seemed to flinch whenever Sarah tried to join in their games. Sarah recalled a conversation she'd overheard just the day before. Emily was in her room, presumably talking to Lily. Sarah had paused outside the door, a laundry basket in her arms, drawn in by the intensity of Emily's voice. "But I told you, Lily, Mommy doesn't understand," Emily had whispered, her voice laced with a sadness that pierced Sarah's heart. "She thinks you're just pretending." A pause. Then, Emily's voice again, softer this time. "No, Lily, you're real to me." Sarah had quickly retreated, her chest tight with a mixture of guilt and fear. Guilt for doubting her daughter, fear for what "real" might mean in this context. Emily's sleep patterns had also changed. She'd always been a sound sleeper, easily lulled into slumber with a bedtime story and a kiss on the forehead. Now, she tossed and turned, often waking up in the middle of the night, her eyes wide and unfocused. When Sarah asked her what was wrong, Emily would simply shake her head, muttering, "Lily had a bad dream." These bad dreams seemed to coincide with a new set of drawings. They were no longer the innocent depictions of two girls holding hands. Now, they were filled with shadowy figures, twisted trees, and a sense of overwhelming darkness. One drawing, in particular, caught Sarah's attention. It depicted a small girl trapped inside a box, her face etched with terror. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She tried talking to Emily about the drawings, but Emily would clam up, her eyes darting nervously around the room. "It's just a game, Mommy," she'd say, her voice barely a whisper. "Lily likes to play." Sarah knew, deep down, that it wasn't just a game. Something was happening to Emily, something she couldn't explain, something that was pulling her further and further away from reality. And Sarah, her loving, anxious heart aching with worry, felt utterly helpless to stop it. She started leaving Emily's door slightly ajar at night, hoping to catch a glimpse of what went on in the darkness, desperate for any clue that might explain the mystery of Lily. The whispers, she realized, were becoming her obsession. Sarah spent hours online, poring over articles about childhood trauma, imaginary friends, and dissociative disorders. Each click brought her closer to a terrifying realization: Lily wasn't just a figment of Emily's imagination, she was a symptom. A red flag waving frantically in the face of some unspoken pain. The more Sarah read, the more convinced she became that Emily had experienced something traumatic, something she couldn't consciously remember or articulate. Perhaps a frightening encounter at the park, a disturbing image on television, or even something she had overheard Sarah and her husband discussing. Children were sponges, absorbing everything around them, and sometimes, those experiences manifested in unexpected ways. She remembered a news report about a little girl who had gone missing 3 years ago. Lily, her name was Lily. The case had remained unsolved, a constant source of heartache for the community. Sarah pushed the thought away, dismissing it as a morbid coincidence. But the image of the missing girl's face, plastered on flyers and news reports, kept flashing in her mind. The idea of therapy became less of a distant possibility and more of a desperate necessity. Sarah started researching child psychologists in their area, carefully reading reviews and comparing their specialties. She needed someone who could gently coax the truth out of Emily, someone who could help her process whatever hidden trauma was lurking beneath the surface. One afternoon, Sarah found Emily sitting in the backyard, surrounded by her dolls. But instead of engaging in her usual imaginative play, Emily was simply staring blankly at the swing set, her face pale and drawn. Sarah knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Emily didn't respond. "Emily," Sarah said, her voice a little louder, "what's wrong?" Emily finally looked up, her eyes filled with a profound sadness that made Sarah's heart ache. "Lily is sad," she whispered. "Why is Lily sad?" Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice calm and neutral. "Because she misses her mommy," Emily said, tears welling up in her eyes. "She wants to go home." Sarah wrapped her arms around Emily, holding her tight. "Oh, sweetie," she murmured, "I'm so sorry." But as she held her daughter, a chilling thought crept into her mind: what if Lily wasn't just an imaginary friend? What if she was something more? What if Emily was somehow connected to the missing girl, the one who had vanished without a trace 3 years ago? The whispers at night suddenly took on a whole new meaning, a desperate plea echoing through the darkness. The idea seemed impossible, absurd, yet Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the verge of uncovering something terrible, something that would change their lives forever. That night, Sarah lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the image of the missing Lily's face burned into her mind. The "Lily misses her mommy" comment echoed in her head, a haunting refrain. She tried to rationalize it, to dismiss it as a child's fanciful imagination. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was taking root, sending tendrils of fear and anxiety through her entire being. Sleep evaded her. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside the window, sounded like footsteps, like whispers. She found herself listening intently, straining to hear any sound coming from Emily's room. Around 2 a.m., she heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible murmur. It was so quiet, she almost dismissed it as her imagination. But then she heard it again, a soft, lilting whisper that seemed to float on the air. It was coming from Emily's room. Sarah sat up in bed, her heart pounding in her chest. She held her breath, listening intently. The whispering continued, a steady, rhythmic drone. She couldn't make out any words, but she could sense the urgency, the desperation in the tone. She slipped out of bed, her bare feet padding softly on the wooden floor. She crept down the hallway, her hand outstretched, guiding her through the darkness. As she approached Emily's room, the whispering grew louder, more distinct. She paused outside the door, her hand hovering over the knob. She hesitated, unsure of what she would find on the other side. What if it was just Emily talking in her sleep? What if it was something far more sinister? Taking a deep breath, she slowly turned the knob and gently pushed the door open. The room was bathed in the soft glow of the moon, which streamed through the window, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Emily was asleep in her bed, her face peaceful and serene. But the whispering was still there, a faint, ethereal sound that seemed to emanate from the corner of the room. Sarah stepped inside, her eyes scanning the room, searching for the source of the sound. The whispering seemed to be coming from the wall behind Emily's bed, a section of the wall that had always seemed a little off. She approached the wall, her hand outstretched, and gently touched the surface. It felt cold and smooth, like stone. She pressed her ear against the wall, straining to hear the whispers. This time, she could make out a few words. They were faint and distorted, but she could hear them nonetheless. "Help me." The whispers seemed to say. "Please. I want to go home." Sarah recoiled in horror, her heart pounding in her chest. The whispers weren't coming from Emily. They were coming from inside the wall. The realization hit her like a physical blow, leaving her gasping for air. The missing Lily, could it be? The idea was insane, impossible, yet the whispers, the desperate pleas for help, were undeniable. Something was hidden behind that wall, something that was trying to reach out, something that was calling for help. And Sarah, her anxious heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination, knew that she had to find out what it was. The next morning, Sarah felt a strange mix of exhaustion and adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had barely slept, replaying the events of the night before in her mind, the faint whispers, the pleas for help, the chilling realization that something was hidden behind the wall. She tried to act normal, making breakfast for Emily, packing her lunch, and getting her ready for school. But her mind was racing, her thoughts consumed by the mystery of the wall. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the verge of uncovering something terrible, something that would shatter their lives forever. As Emily ate her cereal, Sarah watched her carefully, searching for any sign that she knew something, anything about the hidden presence behind the wall. But Emily seemed oblivious, chattering about her upcoming field trip to the zoo, her eyes bright and innocent. After Emily left for school, Sarah found herself drawn back to her daughter's room. She stood in front of the wall, staring at it intently, trying to discern any clues, any indication of what might be hidden behind it. She ran her hand along the surface, feeling for any irregularities, any seams or cracks that might indicate a hidden opening. The wall felt solid and smooth, with no apparent way in. She grabbed a small hammer from the garage and gently tapped on different sections of the wall, listening for any changes in the sound. Most of the wall sounded solid, but there was one section, near the floor, that sounded hollow. Her heart began to pound in her chest. This was it. This was where the whispers had been coming from. This was where the missing Lily might be hidden. She hesitated, her hand trembling as she raised the hammer. What if she was wrong? What if she was just imagining things? What if she damaged the wall and found nothing? But then she remembered the whispers, the desperate pleas for help, and the image of the missing Lily's face flashed in her mind. She couldn't ignore it. She had to know. Taking a deep breath, she swung the hammer and struck the hollow section of the wall. A small chunk of plaster broke away, revealing a dark, dusty space behind it. Sarah stared at the opening, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and anticipation. She had found something. But what was it? What was hidden behind the wall? And what would she do when she finally uncovered the truth? The only thing she knew for sure was that her life, and Emily's life, would never be the same again. The whispers had led her here, and now, she had to follow them to the end, no matter what she found. The faint scent of dust and something else, something indefinable and unsettling, wafted out of the hole, intensifying her apprehension. The hole in the wall was small, barely big enough to peek through. Sarah grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and returned to Emily's room, her heart pounding with each step. She knelt down, shining the light into the darkness. The beam illuminated a small, cramped space, filled with dust and shadows. It looked like a crawl space, maybe an old storage area that had been sealed off years ago. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something faintly sweet and metallic, a smell that made Sarah's stomach churn. She could see cobwebs hanging from the ceiling, and dust motes dancing in the beam of the flashlight. There were a few objects scattered on the floor, a tattered blanket, a rusty metal cup, and a small, worn teddy bear. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The teddy bear, it looked familiar. She'd seen it before, in the missing Lily posters that were plastered all over town 3 years ago. The posters had featured a photo of Lily holding her favorite teddy bear, a bear with one missing eye and a distinctive red ribbon tied around its neck. This bear had those same details. A wave of nausea washed over Sarah. This wasn't just a random storage space. This was something else, something far more sinister. This was a prison, a hiding place, a place where someone had been kept against their will. She shone the flashlight further into the space, trying to see if anyone was inside. The darkness seemed to swallow the light, making it difficult to see anything clearly. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. "Is anyone there?" Silence. She called out again, louder this time. "Hello? Can anyone hear me?" Still, silence. Sarah hesitated. She knew she had to go in there, to explore the space and find out what was hidden inside. But she was terrified. What if someone was still there, waiting in the darkness? What if she found something she couldn't handle? But then she remembered the whispers, the desperate pleas for help, and the image of the missing Lily's face flashed in her mind. She couldn't turn back now. She had to know. She grabbed a crowbar from the garage, determined to widen the hole in the wall. She needed to get inside, to see for herself what was hidden in the darkness. The safety of her daughter, the possibility of rescuing a missing child, it all depended on her bravery in this moment. As she prepared to pry open the wall further, a faint scratching sound echoed from within the hidden space, sending a shiver down her spine. She wasn't alone. Sarah wedged the crowbar into the small opening and braced herself, her muscles straining as she pried at the plaster. Chunks of the wall crumbled and fell to the floor, creating a cloud of dust that filled the air. She coughed, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand, determined to push through. With each heave, the opening grew wider, revealing more of the darkness within. The scratching sound grew louder, more frantic, as if whatever was inside sensed that help was on the way. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the opening was large enough for her to squeeze through. She took a deep breath, steeling her nerves, and climbed into the darkness. The space was even smaller and more cramped than she had imagined. She had to crouch low to avoid hitting her head on the ceiling. The air was stale and heavy, making it difficult to breathe. The smell of mildew and something sweet and metallic was even stronger here, almost overpowering. She shone the flashlight around the space, her heart pounding in her chest. In the corner, huddled beneath a tattered blanket, she saw a small figure. It was a girl, no older than 8 or 9, with matted hair and wide, frightened eyes. She was thin and pale, her clothes were dirty and torn, and she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. It was Lily. She was alive. "Lily," she whispered, her voice trembling. Is that you? The girl looked up at her, her eyes widening in disbelief. She nodded slowly, her lips trembling. It's okay, Sarah said, her voice soft and reassuring. I'm here to help you. You're safe now. Lily started to cry, tears streaming down her face. She reached out her hand, as if afraid that Sarah would disappear. Sarah took her hand, holding it tight. I'm going to get you out of here, she said. We're going to get you home. She carefully helped Lily to her feet, wrapping the tattered blanket around her shoulders. Lily was weak and unsteady, but she managed to stand, leaning heavily on Sarah for support. Together, they made their way back to the opening in the wall. Sarah helped Lily climb through, and then she followed, emerging back into Emily's room, blinking in the bright light. The rescue had begun, and Sarah knew that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey. But she also knew that she had done the right thing, that she had followed the whispers, and that she had saved a little girl's life. The sight of Lily, finally free from her prison, filled Sarah with a sense of hope and determination that she hadn't felt in years. It was time to call the police. Sarah carefully helped Lily sit on Emily's bed, wrapping her in a clean blanket. Lily shivered, her eyes wide and unfocused. She looked around the room, as if seeing it for the first time. It's okay, Sarah said, her voice soft and reassuring. You're safe now. I'm going to call the police. They're going to take care of you. Lily didn't respond, but she squeezed Sarah's hand tightly. Sarah gently stroked her hair, trying to soothe her. She quickly dialed 911, her hands trembling as she explained the situation to the operator. She told them about the whispers, the wall, and the missing girl she had found hidden inside. The operator sounded skeptical at first, but Sarah's voice was firm and insistent. She gave them her address and begged them to send someone immediately. Within minutes, the sirens were wailing in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. Sarah held Lily close, trying to shield her from the noise and the chaos that was about to unfold. The police arrived in force, their flashing lights illuminating the entire street. They swarmed into the house, their faces grim and determined. Sarah led them to Emily's room, where Lily sat huddled on the bed. The officers stared at her in disbelief, their expressions shifting from skepticism to shock. One of the officers, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor, approached Lily and knelt down beside her. "Hi, Lily," she said, her voice soft and soothing. "My name is Officer Johnson. We're here to help you." Lily looked at Officer Johnson, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. She reached out her hand and took Officer Johnson's hand, holding it tight. The paramedics arrived and began to examine Lily, checking her vital signs and asking her questions. She was weak and dehydrated, but otherwise, she seemed to be physically unharmed. As the paramedics tended to Lily, the police officers began to investigate the hidden chamber. They carefully documented the space, taking photographs and collecting evidence. Sarah watched them, her heart pounding in her chest. She had done it. She had found the missing Lily. She had followed the whispers and uncovered a terrible secret. But as she watched the police officers work, a chilling thought crept into her mind: who had kept Lily hidden in that wall for 3 years? And why? The rescue was over, but the mystery was just beginning. She knew that her life, and Emily's life, would never be the same again. The relief of finding Lily safe was quickly overshadowed by the unsettling questions that remained, questions that promised to unravel a dark and twisted tale. It was time to prepare herself and Emily for what came next. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. The police investigation was in full swing, with detectives interviewing Sarah, Emily, and the neighbors, searching for any clues that might lead them to Lily's kidnapper. The media descended upon their quiet street, turning their lives upside down. News crews camped outside their house, reporters clamored for interviews, and their faces were plastered on every television screen and newspaper in the country. Lily was taken to a local hospital, where she underwent a thorough medical examination. She was severely malnourished and dehydrated, but miraculously, she had no major physical injuries. The doctors were amazed by her resilience, by her ability to survive 3 years of captivity in such appalling conditions. Sarah and Emily visited Lily at the hospital every day, bringing her flowers, toys, and books. Lily was shy and withdrawn at first, but slowly, she began to open up to them. She told them about the man who had kidnapped her, a shadowy figure she only knew as Mr. Creepy. She said he had lured her into his van with candy and promises of a trip to the zoo. She remembered being locked in a hidden chamber, day after day, with only the tattered blanket, the rusty cup, and her teddy bear for company. She said that Mr. Creepy would occasionally bring her food and water, but he rarely spoke to her. He would just stare at her with cold, empty eyes, sending shivers down her spine. She didn't know why he had kept her there, what he wanted from her. She only knew that she was terrified of him, and that she desperately wanted to go home. Lily also spoke about Emily, about the strange connection she had felt with her. She said that Emily had been her only friend during her captivity, that she had been able to communicate with her through her thoughts and feelings. She said that Emily had given her hope, that she had kept her from giving up. Sarah was amazed by Lily's story. She couldn't believe that her daughter, her sweet, innocent Emily, had played such a crucial role in Lily's survival. It was a testament to the power of a child's imagination, to the strength of the human spirit. As the police investigation continued, they began to piece together the puzzle of Lily's kidnapping. They discovered that Mr. Creepy was a local handyman named Arthur Jenkins, a quiet, unassuming man who lived alone in a small house on the other side of town. He had been questioned by the police 3 years ago, when Lily first went missing, but he had denied any involvement, and there was no evidence to link him to the crime. But now, with Lily's testimony and the evidence found in the hidden chamber, they had enough to arrest him. Arthur Jenkins was taken into custody, and he eventually confessed to kidnapping Lily and holding her captive for 3 years. He said he had chosen her at random, that he had no particular motive. He was simply a sick, twisted individual who enjoyed inflicting pain and suffering on others. Sarah shuddered at the thought of such evil existing in the world, so close to her own home. Arthur Jenkins' trial was a media circus. The courtroom was packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and members of Lily's family, all eager to witness justice being served. The prosecution presented a compelling case, detailing Jenkins' heinous crime and presenting Lily's harrowing testimony. Lily, though still fragile, was remarkably brave on the witness stand. She recounted her kidnapping, her years of captivity, and the constant fear she had lived with. She spoke of the darkness, the hunger, and the loneliness. But she also spoke of Emily, of the strange connection they had shared, of the hope that Emily had given her. Emily also testified, her small voice clear and steady as she described her imaginary friend, Lily. She said that she had always known that Lily was real, that she could feel her presence, that she could hear her thoughts. She said that she had tried to tell her mommy about Lily, but that her mommy hadn't believed her. Sarah watched Emily testify, her heart swelling with pride and guilt. Pride in her daughter's courage, guilt for doubting her, for dismissing her connection with Lily as mere childish fantasy. She realized that Emily had been trying to tell her the truth all along, but she had been too blinded by her own anxieties to see it. The defense attorney tried to argue that Jenkins was mentally ill, that he was not responsible for his actions. But the jury wasn't buying it. They saw Jenkins for what he was, a monster, a predator, a threat to society. After a week of testimony, the jury reached a verdict. They found Arthur Jenkins guilty on all counts, including kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and aggravated assault. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought a sense of closure to Lily and her family. They could finally put the nightmare behind them and begin to heal. But the scars of the past would always remain, a reminder of the evil that exists in the world, and the importance of vigilance and compassion. In the weeks and months that followed, Lily began the long and difficult process of recovery. She received therapy to help her cope with the trauma she had experienced, and she slowly began to rebuild her life. She re-enrolled in school, made new friends, and rediscovered her love of art and music. Sarah and Emily remained close to Lily, becoming her surrogate family. They celebrated holidays together, went on vacations together, and supported each other through thick and thin. The bond that had been forged in the darkness of the hidden chamber became stronger with each passing day, a testament to the power of hope, resilience, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Emily, no longer seeing Lily as an imaginary friend, had a real-life sister. One of the most emotional moments of the entire ordeal was Lily's reunion with her biological family. After 3 long years of searching, of praying, of never giving up hope, they were finally reunited with their daughter. The reunion took place at the hospital, in a private room away from the prying eyes of the media. Sarah and Emily were invited to be there, to witness the joyous occasion. As Lily's parents walked into the room, their faces etched with a mixture of hope and trepidation, Lily's eyes lit up. She recognized them instantly, even after all these years. "Mommy! Daddy!" she cried, her voice filled with emotion. She ran to them, throwing her arms around them, burying her face in their chests. Her parents embraced her tightly, tears streaming down their faces. "Lily! My baby! You're home. You're finally home," her mother sobbed. They held each other for what seemed like an eternity, their tears mingling together, their hearts overflowing with love and gratitude. It was a moment that no one in the room would ever forget, a testament to the enduring power of family, to the unwavering belief in hope. Sarah and Emily watched the reunion, their own eyes filled with tears. They felt a sense of profound joy, knowing that they had played a part in bringing this family back together. Lily's parents were eternally grateful to Sarah and Emily for their courage and compassion. They thanked them profusely, showering them with hugs and words of appreciation. They knew that without them, they might never have seen their daughter again. As Lily began to settle back into her life with her family, Sarah and Emily remained a constant presence in her life. They were her friends, her confidants, her support system. They helped her navigate the challenges of readjusting to life outside of captivity, and they celebrated her triumphs, big and small. The community hailed Sarah and Emily as heroes. They were invited to speak at schools, churches, and community events, sharing their story of courage, compassion, and the power of believing in the impossible. They used their platform to raise awareness about child safety, to advocate for missing children, and to inspire others to make a difference in the world. Their lives had been forever changed by the events of the past few months. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and unimaginable darkness. But they had also discovered the strength within themselves, the power of love and compassion, and the unwavering belief in the human spirit. They had emerged from the darkness, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to make the world a better place. The whispers had led them on a terrifying journey, but they had also led them to a place of hope, healing, and profound connection. The psychological experts who examined Lily and Emily were fascinated by their connection. They conducted numerous tests and interviews, trying to understand how the two girls had been able to communicate with each other across the barrier of the wall. They theorized that Emily, with her vivid imagination and her innocent heart, had somehow tapped into a subconscious level of communication with Lily. They believed that Emily's mind had created a bridge between the two girls, allowing them to share thoughts, feelings, and even images. They explained that children often have a heightened sense of empathy and intuition, that they are more open to the possibility of the impossible. They suggested that Emily's unwavering belief in Lily's existence had strengthened their connection, allowing them to overcome the physical and emotional barriers that separated them. They also noted that the location of the hidden chamber, directly behind Emily's bedroom wall, may have played a role in their connection. They speculated that the close proximity had created a kind of energetic field, facilitating the communication between the two girls. Whatever the explanation, the experts agreed that Emily's role in Lily's survival was nothing short of miraculous. They said that Emily had given Lily hope, that she had kept her from giving up, that she had been her only friend in a world of darkness and despair. Sarah, too, struggled to understand the connection between her daughter and Lily. She had always been a practical, logical person, skeptical of anything that couldn't be explained by science. But after witnessing the events of the past few months, she was forced to reconsider her beliefs. She realized that there were things in this world that couldn't be explained, that there were mysteries that defied logic and reason. She had come to believe in the power of the human spirit, in the strength of love and compassion, and in the ability of children to see beyond the limitations of the physical world. Emily, for her part, didn't fully understand the extent of her role in Lily's survival. She simply knew that she had felt a connection with Lily, that she had wanted to help her, and that she had never given up on her. She continued to draw pictures of herself and Lily, holding hands, smiling, and surrounded by rainbows and butterflies. She said that the pictures were a reminder of their friendship, of the hope that they had shared, and of the power of believing in the impossible. She began to understand that her imagination wasn't just a game, it was a superpower. It was a way to connect with others, to heal the world, and to make a difference in the lives of those around her. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that she would use her superpower for good, always. The experience taught her that even the smallest child could make a huge difference, and that kindness could overcome even the darkest of circumstances. The media attention, while initially overwhelming, eventually settled into a manageable hum. Sarah and Emily learned to navigate the interviews, the public appearances, and the constant scrutiny with grace and humility. They understood that their story had resonated with people around the world, that it had given them hope in a time of darkness and despair. They received letters and cards from strangers, thanking them for their courage, for their compassion, and for their unwavering belief in the human spirit. They were invited to meet with politicians, celebrities, and community leaders, all eager to hear their story and to offer their support. Sarah and Emily used their newfound platform to advocate for causes that were close to their hearts. They spoke out against child abuse and neglect, they raised awareness about missing children, and they promoted the importance of mental health and emotional well-being. They also established a foundation in Lily's name, dedicated to providing support and resources to children who had experienced trauma. The foundation quickly gained momentum, raising millions of dollars to fund programs and services that help children heal from their wounds and rebuild their lives. Emily, in particular, became a role model for children around the world. She showed them that even the smallest person could make a big difference, that even the most ordinary child could possess extraordinary powers. She inspired them to use their imaginations, to believe in the impossible, and to never give up on hope. Sarah, once plagued by anxiety and doubt, found a newfound sense of purpose and confidence. She realized that her anxieties had actually been a gift, that they had made her more attuned to the needs of others, more sensitive to the dangers that lurked in the shadows. She had learned to trust her instincts, to follow her heart, and to never underestimate the power of a mother's love. The experience had transformed their family, forging a bond that could never be broken. They had faced darkness and despair, but they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. They had become heroes, not because they had sought fame or recognition, but because they had simply done what was right, because they had followed the whispers, and because they had never given up on hope. They now understood that true heroism wasn't about grand gestures or extraordinary feats, it was about small acts of kindness, about unwavering compassion, and about the courage to stand up for what you believe in, even when the odds are stacked against you. The whispers, once a source of fear and anxiety, had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found. And they knew, with absolute certainty, that they would continue to shine that light, for as long as they lived. The healing process was long and arduous for everyone involved. Lily faced the daunting task of rebuilding her life after years of trauma. She attended therapy sessions, worked with counselors, and slowly began to confront the demons of her past. She learned coping mechanisms, developed healthy relationships, and rediscovered her sense of self-worth. With the unwavering support of her family, Sarah, and Emily, Lily gradually reclaimed her life. She found joy in simple things, like spending time with loved ones, pursuing her hobbies, and helping others in need. She became an advocate for child safety, sharing her story with the world and inspiring others to overcome adversity. Sarah, too, underwent a transformation. She confronted her anxieties, learned to trust her instincts, and embraced her role as a mother and a hero. She found solace in helping others, in making a difference in the world. She dedicated her time to the foundation she had established in Lily's name, working tirelessly to provide support and resources to children who had experienced trauma. Emily, wise beyond her years, continued to inspire those around her with her compassion, her imagination, and her unwavering belief in the power of good. She became a mentor to other children, sharing her story and encouraging them to embrace their own unique gifts and talents. The experience had brought Sarah and Emily even closer, forging a bond that could never be broken. They had faced darkness and despair together, and they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. They had learned the importance of communication, of trust, and of never giving up on hope. They transformed Emily's room. The wall that had once concealed such a dark secret became a symbol of hope and healing. They painted it with bright colors, decorated it with pictures of themselves and Lily, and filled it with toys and books. It became a sanctuary, a place where they could laugh, play, and share their dreams for the future. The whispers that had once haunted Sarah's dreams now served as a reminder of the incredible journey they had undertaken, of the lives they had touched, and of the power of love to overcome even the darkest of circumstances. They knew that their story would continue to inspire others for generations to come, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of hope. It was a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable adversity, there is always light to be found, and that even the smallest act of kindness can make a world of difference. They had not only rescued a little girl, they had rescued themselves. And they had learned, together, that the greatest superpower of all was love. Years passed. Lily grew into a strong, confident young woman, pursuing her dreams with passion and determination. She never forgot the darkness she had endured, but she refused to let it define her. She chose to focus on the light, on the love and support that had helped her to survive. Emily blossomed into a compassionate and creative young woman, using her imagination to make the world a better place. She became an artist, a writer, and an advocate for social justice. She never forgot the power of her connection with Lily, and she dedicated her life to helping others find their voice, their strength, and their hope. Sarah, forever changed by the events of the past, continued to champion the cause of child safety, working tirelessly to protect children from harm and to provide them with the love and support they needed to thrive. She learned to trust her instincts, to embrace her anxieties, and to find strength in vulnerability. Their story became a legend, a tale whispered from generation to generation, a reminder of the extraordinary power of ordinary people to overcome adversity, to find hope in darkness, and to make a difference in the world. It was a story about the importance of listening to children, of trusting their instincts, and of never dismissing their imaginations as mere childish fantasy. It was a story about the unwavering bond between a mother and her daughter, about the power of love to conquer fear, and about the enduring strength of the human spirit. It was a story about the whispers, the faint, ethereal voices that had led them on a terrifying journey, but that had ultimately led them to a place of hope, healing, and profound connection. And as Sarah looked at Emily and Lily, now young women, laughing and sharing stories, she knew that their journey was far from over. They would continue to face challenges, to experience setbacks, and to confront the darkness that still lingered in the world. But they would also continue to shine their light, to spread their message of hope and compassion, and to inspire others to believe in the impossible. For in the end, their story was a testament to the power of believing, to the importance of never giving up, and to the unwavering truth that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found. The faint whisper of hope, carried on the wings of a child's imagination, had saved a life, had transformed a community, and had shown the world that even the smallest voice can make the biggest difference. The world was a better place because Sarah listened.